Number 37, national churches withdrawn from the authority of the Roman pontiff and altogether separated can be established. Okay, PP9 is thinking no, they can't be established, that this is a false statement. Um, in other words, uh, no other churches should be allowed to be formed according to the Catholic Church. So again, going against the concept in the Constitution of freedom of religion. For the Catholic, there is only one freedom of religion, and that is freedom of religion for Catholics. All right. PP9 says that that number 40 is also false. That it is an error, and that error is that the teaching of the Catholic Church is hostile to the well-being and interests of society. That is not an error. It is true that the teachings of the Catholic Church are hostile to the well-being and interests of society because they want to take away religious freedom. They want to force their doctrines, their heresies on the world, whether you want them or not. They want to, in essence, force you to be saved, which is impossible. Number 45, the entire government of public schools. And before I read this one, I'll tell you, I did not include the documentation where each of these quotes came from, but if you'll look on the website that has the encyclical on it, every one of these points has the documentation immediately following the point. So just so you know, you can check that out. Okay, number 45, the entire government of public schools in which the youth of a Christian state is educated, except to a certain extent in the case of Episcopal seminaries, may and ought to appertain to the civil power and belong to it so far that no other authority whatsoever shall be recognized as having any right to interfere in the discipline of schools, the arrangement of studies, the conferring of degrees, and the choice or approval of teachers. Okay, PP9 says this statement is false. He wants the Catholic Church to once again be able to step into government areas and regulate things and to make rules and to do things that they don't need to be doing in the government arena. Um, Number 54, kings and princes are not only exempt from the jurisdiction of the church, but are superior to the church in deciding questions of jurisdiction. All right, this is again along the lines of keeping separation between church and state. This statement says that the kings and princes or governments should be exempt or are exempt from the jurisdiction of the church. Now, this brings to mind a certain pope, and I can't remember which one it was, but there was one pope who dethroned a king, and I'll try to put that in a pop-up bubble if I remember the names, but they escape me at the moment. Um, but this, brings to mind that story where this king was dethroned by a pope and had to go stand in the snow for 3 days as a repentance for something he had done that this pope didn't like. Uh, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy for a government to be subject to a church. Um, that's mixing church and state, and that ought not to be. Um, Number 55, the church ought to be separated from the state and the state from the church. Now, out of all of the things I've already read, this is the most glaringly clear statement that could be made by a pope, in this case PP9, um, saying that it is an error to think. This is what he's saying on point number 55. It is an error to think that the church ought to be separated from the state and the state from the church. People, this is what we came here for. This is what the founding fathers came here for, to escape this kind of thinking. Church and state are to be separate. That's what they came here for, to escape this religious persecution that comes from state-mandated churches. The church has no right to force anyone to believe against their conscience. And that's what the Catholic Church wants to do. It wants to get back what it lost in the old world and to again take over the world and to ride the beast riding the beast, the harlot riding the beast. She wants to control, she wants the power of the state to back up her heretical dogmas and to punish dissenters if they don't comply. Number 77, in the present day, it is no longer expedient. Now, PP9, keep in mind, PP9 thinks all these are errors. In the present day, it is no longer expedient that the Catholic religion should be held as the only religion of the state, to the exclusion of all other forms of worship. Okay, this statement is thought by PP9 to be false. In other words, the Catholic religion should be held as the only religion of the state and to the complete exclusion of all other forms of worship. That's what the Catholic Church is after. They want to be the only church. They claim they are the true church, and they feel like that because their religion is not appealing to all, that all should be forced against their will to accept the Catholic Church and follow its dogmas whether they want to or not. Okay, number 78. Hence, it has been wisely decided by law in some Catholic countries that persons coming to reside therein shall enjoy the public exercise of their own peculiar worship. And PP9 says, no, this is false. This is an error. It doesn't matter to PP9 what the laws say. In some Catholic countries, and it wouldn't matter if it was a Catholic country or a non-Catholic country, they don't want people to enjoy the exercise of their own peculiar brand of worship. This again is going against the idea of separation of church and state. I don't know why it was so hard for Bengali to go through. I don't even think he read it. He accused me of not reading. It's obvious I read it because he never mentioned a single one of the points in his video slander against me. But this is very clear as well that they do not want, the Catholic Church does not want anyone to enjoy the public exercise of their own worship. The Catholic Church doesn't want them to be able to make their own choice. Okay, number 79. Moreover, it is false that the civil liberty of every form of worship and the full power given to all of overtly and publicly manifesting any opinions whatsoever and thoughts conduce more easily to corrupt the morals and minds of the people and to propagate the pest of indifferentism. Okay, the people that made this statement that it is false that civil liberty and being able to think for yourself and do for yourself, in other words, and having this freedom, they're saying that that is not conducive to corrupt the morals and minds of the people. But the Pope is saying, yes, it is. If you give people, the Pope is saying here, if you give people liberty of worship, if you give them liberty of power over their own decision, if you give them liberty to have their own opinion, and if you give them liberty to have their own thoughts. See, the Catholic Church doesn't even want you to have your own thoughts. They want you to be a robotic, just a robot. They want you to be a robot that follows what the Pope says. That's all. Don't want you to have any kind of choice in the matter. Follow us or else. That's what they want.